In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to give you a taste of what enlightenment feels like. And that's not because I'm there and you're not. It's just an exercise that I found from this guy, Kapil Gupta, that the first time I did it, it just absolutely changed my life, blew my mind, and I would like to offer it as a wee gift to yourselves. You know, I couldn't even make sense of it the first time I read about it and I tried it. So it's going to be a tough one to wrap your head around, but let's give it a bash. I need to lay the groundwork a bit first before we jump into the exercise. So it is, overall, this concept is about something called the manufactured self. And the manufactured self is to do with your personality structure. You know, every time you look in the mirror, you see the person you've come to know as yourself looking back at you. When I look in the mirror, I see Jack looking back at me. When you look in the mirror, you see Sarah or David or Mohammed or whatever looking back at you. You know what, let's use Sarah for an example. Every time you look in the mirror, you see Sarah. And for your entire life, you have lived as if you are the person in the mirror known as Sarah. When Sarah is tired, you put her to bed. When Sarah is hungry, you feed her. When Sarah is upset, you put her under the duvets and stick YouTube on. You know, when someone criticizes Sarah, you feel hurt. You spend all your time worrying about Sarah's hopes and ambitions and dreams and desires and wants and things that she's running away from and things that she's hoping to get in the future. But your life mission is to placate and satisfy this person that you've come to know as Sarah that you see every time you look in the mirror. Does that make sense? So what if I said to you that for the next week, you didn't have to take care of Sarah? Someone else was going to take care of her. Didn't have to worry about, you know, Sarah's conversations that she had with her bosses. You don't have to worry about what Sarah wants to do tomorrow, what Sarah wants to eat for her lunch. You don't have to worry about, you know, that thing that Sarah said 3 days ago that she's still worrying about. None of those things are your concern anymore. Someone is going to take care of Sarah for you. What would that week look like? What would you do? How would you spend your time if you didn't have to worry about that person you've come to know as Sarah, or for me, Jack? I'm not going to ask you to do it for a week. All I'm going to ask is that you do it for the next 5 minutes. So I want you to pause this video after I finish speaking. I want you to pause this video. I want you to set a timer for 5 minutes on your phone or your laptop. And I want you to sit there and try and put Sarah in a box over here. Try and create a gap between you and everything that you've come to know as Sarah, and see what it feels like to live separate from this personality structure that you've created for yourself. Please actually do it now. Now, I'm not going to ask you to tell me how it felt to do that, because I think words cheapen the truth of the direct experience that we have. And I have many examples in my life where I've had something incredibly profound happen, and every time you speak about it, it's like letting a little bit of the air out of the balloon. So all I want to say is that the first time I tried this in my life, I felt just such an incredible feeling of freedom. And it was so fucking weird, right? How does that even work? Like, I am Jack. How could I be separate from Jack? But my experience was that I felt lighter, you know, enlightened. I felt lighter. I felt more free. It was like freedom from everything that I've ever worried about in my life has been to do with the personality structure that I've created around this person that I know as Jack. And so when I created that gap from that person, it was like I was completely free to do whatever the fuck I wanted. You know, to laugh and joke around and be silly. I didn't have to view everything through whether it was a good idea for him. You know what I mean? And so, if you did the exercise properly, for 5 minutes there, you had complete freedom from yourself. Complete freedom from the person you've come to know as you. Which begs the question, how is that fucking possible? You know, you are you, right? But it's a tough one to wrap the head around. But you did it, right? So let's do a little thought experiment. If I was to ask you, what is this? I would say, that's my hand, okay? So that means the hand's over here and you're over here, right? There's a gap between the two of you. because the hand clearly can't be you. Because if I chopped a hand off, then I would still be here, you know? And we could take the thought experiment even further, right? We can imagine that you are going into the most sophisticated surgery in the world, and you're covered, you know, you go into like a little tunnel from the neck down, and you get the best surgeons, the best anesthesia the world has ever known. And I'm standing there talking to you from the neck up. And they take your leg away, you know, they take the other leg, they take your arm, they take your other arm. And I ask you, how's it going? You still in there? And you say, yeah, I feel great. You know, and then they could even go further. You know, they could take your heart out, put you to a life support machine. I'm pretty sure they could even take your brain out and keep you going. No, maybe they couldn't take your brain out, but they could take everything pretty much from the neck down, and they could keep you alive. And if I was to speak to you, you'd say, yeah, I still feel great. Clearly you're not your body, because I could remove 75% of your body and you would still say, yeah, I'm here. You know, you're not your name, because you can change your name. Many people do. You know, you could change your name to fucking Ramdas, and then you're not your name. You're not your hair, because for some of us it's fallen out of our heads. And as we've just seen in this little exercise, you're also not your personality structure that you've come to know as you. So then the question becomes, well, who are you? And the answer is that you are the being who recognizes that a personality structure called Jack Campbell has been created. You are the observer that sits in the back and watches as the personality structure plays out on the world. You are the space that sits behind, you're the thing that sits behind with space in between the personality structure of Sarah Smith. Does that make sense? It's a very nuanced, subtle, difficult concept to wrap your head around it. As I say, it took me months to get this the first time I ever did. And I'll go even further. You are no one. You are a awareness, a consciousness that's floating through 3D reality and has the experience of being a person living on Earth. But all you are is the consciousness that animates this, you know, meat puppet or whatever you want to call it. And when you can truly understand what that means and feel it in your life experience, that is what gives you a taste of enlightenment. Because if you didn't exist and you weren't living through this prism of your personality structure, then it would be impossible to be depressed, because there would be no one to be depressed. It would be impossible to feel anxious, because no one's there to feel anxious, you know? And I'm not saying that I can, you know, live like this for my entire life. You know, 95% of the time I forget all this shit anyways, and I'm just like, oh, what am I having for lunch? Obviously. But once you've tasted it, the feeling of true freedom from every single worry that you've ever had in your life, because you're not there to worry about it anymore, that's true liberation. And you're finally free of the burden of the person who's been ruining your fucking life. And it feels fucking great. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. I'm going to make some more videos like this. Watch them if you're interested. I enjoy making them, so yeah, I hope you enjoy watching them. Cheers.